In this final video of me making a chess set, I will talk about reasons for you to make a chess set. I will give you some of the tips and tricks of things that I've learned along the way, and also discuss the reasons why not to make a chess set and give some of the problems and issues I had with making this chess set. So if you're into making stuff, or if you just like to look at chess sets and chess boards and wood turning, this is probably the video for you. So first I'll talk about why I made a chess set, and basically there are three reasons. Firstly, at the end of 2019, I got a metal lathe, and I decided for some strange reason that making a wooden chess set on a metal lathe would teach me how to use a metal lathe. I'm not completely sure why I thought that, but this is what happened, and here we are. We have a completed chess set. And I'm quite happy that I did it. I do understand the metal lathe a bit better. And one of my following projects will probably be metal on the metal lathe, which is probably more appropriate. The second reason is I always wanted a nice chess set and a nice chessboard. And I have a small chessboard. And I had a friend come over, and when we played, it was a really cramped space, difficult to move the pieces. And I thought that if I make nice large pieces on a nice big board, it would just enhance the experience of playing chess. And I think it does. It's a really nice way to play chess if you can move the pieces and have no issue bumping over the other pieces that's in the way. The third reason is I thought I would be cool making a chessboard. So I'm going to blame the movie Shawshank Redemption. The guy in that movie made a chess set.
I want to carve the pieces myself. One side in alabaster, the opposing side in soapstone. What do you think?
And I thought that was really cool. And I thought, maybe I'd be a bit cooler if I made a chess set. Not sure if that really happened, but here we are. We have a chess set and a nice chessboard. So I started the project with making the board. I had the metal lathe ready to go, and I thought I'd quickly knock out the board and get back to the lathe after that. And my first problem was getting different types of wood. I had a lot of white or light wood, but not a lot of dark wood. And I thought about staining or buying some darker wood. But then I thought I'd use this technique that I saw online quite a lot, where people burn wood to make it dark. It is a popular technique. It's a bit overused probably, and a lot of people that are into woodworking think it's overused burning stuff, and there's a bit of negative discussion around that at this stage. But I decided I wanted to try it in any case, and I made a lot of squares and burned half of them black. And I'm quite happy with how it turned out. The pieces are not flat, they're very tactile. The ridges are very pronounced, especially on the burnt pieces. So with the squares made, I could assemble the inner part of the board, and I wanted a nice trim on the outside of the inner board. And I thought I'll have a nice engraving of a font that looked elvish, something like Lord of the Rings. So I spent, I think, 3 days designing a font, learning how fonts work, learning how to install it, and got a lot of chess quotes and chess-related quotes and engraved it on the outside of the inner board. With the board done, I could move on, but I didn't. I decided that the inner board is not enough. I needed to make an outer board, and I also wanted to make a place where I could store the pieces with drawers. And I wanted the whole thing to fit exactly on this IKEA table that we have. So I spent another few days, maybe a week or 2 weeks, making the outer board. So this is also burnt pieces. I'm not sure what kind of wood. I engraved the coordinates very deeply into the burnt wood. And then I got white pieces of wood, cut letters, and pasted into the board. And then I was finally done, except I wanted to have the inner board be removable. So I have this locking mechanism that I designed, and the inner board can be removed if you ever want to take only part of the board. The last thing that I did before moving on to the chess pieces is actually to make a hidden compartment. So since the board is removable, there was a nice large space, and I designed a box that have locks. The locks are not very secure. The whole thing is wood, so it's not very secure, but they have a riddle that you need to solve to open a box to get inside. Then I decided enough is enough. The chessboard is done. I should move on to making the pieces. A question that I get asked quite a lot is, what wood did I use for the chess pieces? And the wood that I use is from dead elm branches. We had the elm tree in the garden, and it got Dutch elm disease and it died. This happened probably around 2014. And the branches that fell, I picked up and stored in the basement. Most of the pieces are made from this dead tree. Some of the pieces were made from other pieces of wood that just got mixed into the bunch. And when they looked too different, I decided I will use those pieces and stain them black. But most of it is from elm. I started making the chess pieces before the board was done, and I designed them based on a few sketches, and I had a rough idea of how big each of the pieces should be relative to each other and relative to the board. And then I started turning the pawns. So I quickly discovered that making a single pawn is really easy. It took me about 2 hours to make a single piece initially, but the problem I quickly realized was making two pawns that look exactly the same is quite hard. So I made a jig to copy the patterns from one pawn to the next, and that worked reasonably well. I also made a small head shaping tool, which is basically just a piece of sandpaper on an inner curve to make the heads nice and round. And that worked reasonably well, and I'm quite happy with how the pawns turned out. So after the pawns was made, I got quite confident, and I thought I would not use the jig for the other pieces. And I made the rooks first, and then the bishops. The rooks were quite easy, but with the bishops, you can see if you look at the heads, they are not exactly the same. A jig would have prevented this a bit. It worked okay. I'm quite happy with it. The pieces are unique. Each of them have their own feeling, but it isn't as precise as the pawns. For one of the rooks, I tried to cut these small notches away, and I wanted to see if that works, and it did. So I was happy with how that turned out, and I thought I'm just going to complete the set without finishing all the details first, and I continued on to the queens. So with the kings and queens, I got really confident. I finished the queens, and then I started turning a king, and then I messed up, and the king was ugly, and I stopped making a chess set. So at this stage, I want to talk about the pitfalls and the problems that I experienced making this chess set. One of the first things that I realized is that you need to go slow when you use a metal lathe. I had one of the pawns that I had in the chuck. I was moving too fast with the cutting tool. This was with the jig, and it jumped out of the lathe. It hit the camera. Luckily, nothing was damaged or broken, but from then on, I took it a bit slowly. And I also made sure that I always wear safety gear, and also, of course, tuck away the beard. It's very important to not have any loose hanging things that can go into the lathe. The second problem that I encountered, and this was specifically with one of the rooks, is that the wood split when I drilled the hole. The wood was, I think, a bit drier or a bit more flimsy. And during this process, I think I had to make a few pieces because the wood itself was damaged during the process. Either me not being careful enough, or a knot or something made me break the piece, and I needed to remake the pieces. So that's something that happens, and something that you can expect if you were going to make a chess set. The last and the biggest problem was with me stopping. I'm not exactly sure why I stopped after the king, probably a bit disappointed, but a lot of external other factors also made me not really go into the shop and work. I packed away the lathe, and I spent much less time in the workshop. A problem that arose from that was that because the chess set was not completed and it was just standing there, I wasn't really doing any other projects. Every time I started or wanted to start something new, I thought I should finish the chess set before moving on to something else. And this hampered a lot of the projects that I had in mind. So if I can give you advice, is go on to forums. I complained on Reddit in the woodworking forum that I didn't finish this piece and it was actually hampering my progress. And there were so many people responding saying they have the same problem. It's a normal thing. And I got quite a bit of support. And after that, I thought, I'm just going to continue. The people said it was a nice thing and I should continue and I should finish it, and gave me a lot of tips on how to do it and what not to do. And I decided I'm just going to push through and finish the project. And I'm really happy that I did. So at that stage, I had only the knights and the two kings left. So I quickly made the kings. And the second time I made a king, it was nice. And I made the last king. And then all the pieces was complete, except, of course, for the knights. The knights are the most tricky piece to make. But I had so much time not working on it, I had an idea of how to do it. And I have two videos showing how I made the knights. But basically I had a jig and I turned the base of the knight, and then the rest of the knight just popped into the jig, and on a scroll saw I cut it out. The plans for the jig will be available in the link below. I'm not sure if anyone will ever use it or want to use it, but it is there just in case. But I'm quite happy with the knights and how the knights turned out. So at that stage, all of the pieces were mostly done, and I had to start with getting the details done and finishing the pieces. So I moved on to finishing all the pieces, cutting out all the small details, shaping the heads of the queen, getting the crown, a bit of detail, the crosses, shaping the knights to make them a bit more round, because when you cut something on the scroll saw, it's really hard edges. And then it was on to staining. My initial idea was I would burn the light pieces of wood to make them dark. The same I did with the squares. And initially I tried it with one of the pawns, and I decided you lose a lot of detail in the fire. It's also really unpredictable. A lot of things break and it becomes really misshapen and misformed. So I abandoned that idea and I just went with a simple dark ebony stain. Just a quick tip on staining: if you use water-based stain on wood, especially wood that's really smooth, often the beads of water will not penetrate the wood. And one way around this is to make the wood a bit damp. So what I did is I placed all of the pieces inside a vivarium I have. At 80% humidity, the grain becomes a bit more open and the wood stain penetrates a bit better. So I can recommend you to either put it in a vivarium, or if you don't have a vivarium at hand, just spray it with a fine mist and that will help the staining work a bit better. After the stain dried, I added the Danish oil to all the pieces, and at this stage, when I started adding the first few coats of Danish oil, I realized that this project is almost done, and I got really excited, posted some of the photos online, and my family liked it, so I was really happy. So the last steps were just to add some weight, and I'm really happy that I added the weight. So inside each of the pieces, I drilled a hole, firstly to mount the pieces while working on them, but also to add lead weights. And adding the lead weights changed the feel of the pieces a lot. They're very heavy and sturdy, so if you make a move, you really feel like you're making a decision on the chessboard. It's a really nice feeling to have if you lift a piece and it's not just a light piece. I'm happy I did that. Then I added a small cover on the base and felt feet, and all the pieces have recessed felt feet, so they're nice and quiet when you move it, and they don't scratch the board. And then the chessboard was done. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I thought I will make the videos and move on to another project, but then I got sidetracked with another idea that I had. I wanted to make a rotating display stand to have nicer glamour shots. And this was another side project that took, I think, a week. The display stand turned out very nice. It's hand cranked, it's not battery operated. And again, the plans are linked for free in the description below. So if you want to make your own, to make nice glamour shots while your hand is in the shot, please feel free to make your own. I'm currently playing a game. I'm playing with a guy in New Zealand, and we're moving once a day or once every other day. I'm playing black, so we'll see how this ends. But it's really nice to have someone to play with and to use the board itself. So in conclusion, should you make a chess set? Well, if you want to make stuff and you want to make a chess set, yes, of course, go for it. It's a really nice thing to do. Just remember, there are 132 chess pieces to be made during this process. It takes a long time and you'll probably lose motivation. So I can just tell you to just stick with it. Reach out to people, send me an email, and I will give you a bit of support and motivation. But yes, if you want to make a chess set, I can really recommend you try it at least once. A second tip I can give is make the chessboard first. So if you have something that's completed where you can see the progress, it's easier to continue with things that the progress is slow. And the chessboard itself is probably a bit easier to make. It goes faster and you see it and it's done and it's there. This is true for most projects. Do the things where you can see progress to help you get over the parts that you cannot really see progress that you have been making. So if you made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I would like it if you subscribe, maybe leave a comment or a like or anything like that. I would really appreciate it. And stay tuned for the next project. I will try to release the next video a week from when this video was released, and this will include something really exciting. There's going to be cats, there's going to be lasers, there's going to be laser pointers, and there's going to be free plans for an exercise wheel for cats, and you probably can upscale it to humans. But subscribe to be notified when this video releases. And again, thanks for watching. Cheers.